Putazos y Pendejadas Podcast.
Mark, we got a lot of boxing to recap. Clarissa Shields' big win last Saturday, Dereck Chisora's big win last Saturday, and we're going to talk about the August 3rd card in LA put on by Riyadh Season. Let's start with Clarissa Shields, Mark. Clarissa Shields stopped Vanessa Lepage Joyce in the second round of her heavyweight debut. Actually, it's light heavyweight. They fought at light heavyweight, but the light heavyweight title and the heavyweight title were on the line. She added 2 more divisional titles to her already 3 divisional titles and has become a 5-division women's boxing champion. That trophy case is getting loaded, Mark. She stopped Joyce in the second round, knocking her down 3 times in the process and forced her corner to stop the fight. What did you think of that fight, Mark?
You know what? It was a historical night. There's only one other human being on the face of the earth in the last 100 years, David. Think about that, man. I believe it's Roy Jones, who has won a middleweight championship and a heavyweight championship. Clarissa Shields is breaking records left and right. She's got she's 2-division undisputed champ in the 4-belt era, and now she's the heavyweight champ of the world, man. And she beat the hell out of Vanessa Lepage, man. She's got power at the heavyweight division. She spoke about it. She says she feels stronger. She can feel that power. This is a treat for everybody, man. She is becoming Serena Williams-esque. But for sure, at the end of the day, she's going to be the boxer with probably the most hardware of anybody as far as titles and accolades like that. I mean, what we're witnessing is amazing, man.
What do you think is next for Clarissa, Mark? Does she move back down in weight or does she stay at heavyweight?
No, she's going to stay. In her press conference, she said she's staying. She actually called out a friend of the show, Danielle Perkins. So we're probably going to see her against Danielle. Yeah.
Yeah. For those that don't know, Danielle Perkins is a former professional basketball player. She played overseas for many years or several years. Very athletic. She's big. She's a heavyweight. She's not going to look small. Joyce, she looks smaller than Clarissa in that ring, and she was supposed to be the bigger fighter. She actually looks smaller. She's going to look like the bigger fighter in the ring with Clarissa. And she has an interesting style, right, Mark? She likes to stick and move, but she can punch. How do you think that fight is going to be?
You know what? Danielle Perkins is a really, really good athlete. She played basketball at St. John's. I believe she led the nation in rebounds, if I'm not mistaken. She was a WNBA NBA player. She did play overseas. Yeah, she did play overseas as well. She's played with a lot of top athletes. She lives as an athlete and trained as an athlete, either in basketball or boxing her whole life. She's got great footwork. And yeah, she sticks and moves, and her hands land very, very solid. And she looks like what a heavyweight is supposed to look like. She is built, and I think she's got a lot of power. I've seen some of her fights. She's very, very heavy-handed, quick. She's going to give Clarissa Shields some problems. She's very long, very athletic.
All right, Mark, moving on to Dereck Chisora, the fight from last Saturday. He defeated the juggernaut Joyce by unanimous decision at the O2 Arena in London. Chisora improves to 35-13, while Joyce drops to 16-3. Did you get a chance to check that one out?
Yeah, I did, man. I wanted to see the juggernaut come back. You know, they sold him to us really well. He had that big win over Parker, and then I don't know, man. I think Frank Warren and these European guys, they don't know anything about boxing. They matched him up all wrong. They put him up against Zhang twice. He got slaughtered. I don't know. I think they handled his career all wrong. He was on the up and up. He was a big star coming up. They did good at the beginning with him. They built him up, and then they just put him up against wolves. You gotta, protect your fighter a little bit. That's your commodity, and I think they did a horrible job with it. Now, the fight itself, it was ridiculously sloppy. A lot of people don't like that stuff, but I liked it. You know, they look tired and they're all sloppy, but I like it because there's a lot of banging going on. A lot of people don't like it. They like a little sweeter science, a lot of moving, a lot of more boxing. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the fight, but it's a shame what they're doing with Joyce. I think it's over for him now. I don't know. What do you think?
I disagree with your take, bro. I think they did the best they could with Joyce. I mean, we're talking about Joyce, not Joe Louis. They got him to 16-0, bro. With the skills that they had to work with, they still got him to 16-0, and he fought some good fighters along the way. Or at least, as good as could be considered in the heavyweight division. The problem really is, Mark, it's not the promoters, it's not Frank Warren, it's not his team. It's Joe Joyce and his skill set. The problems that he had in the Chisora fight were always the problems he had since the beginning. The man cannot move his head. He's too stiff. That's Joe Joyce, man. Hey, I like watching him fight. He was an entertaining fighter. You were going to see some action when you watch a Joe Joyce fight. He served his purpose. He made the heavyweight division interesting. But when you get hit as much as Joe Joyce gets hit, Mark, and you can't move your head, you're not going to have a long career, especially in the heavyweight division. It was sloppy. I agree with you there. It was a very sloppy fight, but it was also entertaining. There wasn't a lot of sweet science on display in that one. But if you tuned in for some sweet science in a Chisora Joe Joyce fight, you're in the wrong place. And as bad as it was at times to watch, it was entertaining overall, Mark. Chisora put his heart on display like he usually does in fights. And he was just catching Joe Joyce over and over with the same slow overhand right. Chisora was not supposed to win this fight, Mark. That's why they put Joe Joyce in there. This was supposed to be a confidence builder for Joe Joyce, and it ended up being a big, big setback. Moving on to Riyadh season, August 3rd, this Saturday. We got a big fight card for all of the boxing fans, Mark. It almost seems like too much, right? This card is so loaded. I want to focus on 3 fights here, Mark. Let's start with Andy Ruiz versus Jerel Miller. Andy Ruiz is 35-2 with 22 KOs. Jerel Miller is 26-1 and 1 draw with 22 KOs. How does this fight play out to you?
I like this fight. Look, you got Andy Ruiz, who's 34 years old. He's 6'2 with a 74-inch reach. You got Miller, who's 36, 6'4, and a 78-inch reach. But I like this fight. I think they're both evenly matched, but we don't know what's going to happen. I hope they both come as, their top selves. Now, I am going to take Ruiz, though. I'm going to take Andy Ruiz Jr. just because I think he's got a slight advantage in experience. Obviously, the amateur career, and as a heavyweight, I think he's been in there with more talent and bigger fights. So I'm going to go with Andy Ruiz Jr. by a decision.
Yeah, this one is a big question mark for me. I don't know what to expect in this fight. I mean, Ruiz has been out of the ring for 2 years. Jerel Miller is coming off a pretty bad performance versus Daniel Dubois in his last fight. He's very grossly out of shape. I hear they're both kind of taking this fight seriously. They're both slimmed down. They've got their weight in check for this match. But Ruiz's inactivity and Miller's lack of discipline, this is a big wild card for me. I agree Ruiz has the faster hands, but Miller's a bigger guy in the ring. We know Miller's going to come forward. We know that. And how is Ruiz going to respond to that? Is he going to stand his ground, or will Miller be able to push him back? Or will Ruiz be able to use some angles and kind of turn Miller? I just don't know if he can outwork Miller being out of the ring for 2 years. So I don't know. I don't know what to expect in this fight, Mark. But I do know that the most interesting fight of the night, in my eyes, is Isaac Cruz and Rayo Valenzuela. Rayo is moving up from 135 to 140. Is this a plus or a minus for him?
I like Isaac Cruz in this one. I think he's going to have an easier night against Valenzuela. As far as it being a plus or a minus, I think it's a minus only because of the opponent. I think Valenzuela can compete at 140, but Isaac Cruz is the face of a nation right now. I was talking to Bravo Tejas Giron, and this discussion came up of the face of Mexico right now, and by far it's Isaac Cruz. By far, Isaac Cruz has got the whole nation behind him. He's been in there with tougher opponents like Cabrera. He's been in there with Rollies. He was in there with Rollies, and then he was also in there with Tank. So I think the level of opposition has been higher. He's been in bigger events. He's got double the fights. His chin is almost granite, Canelo-esque. His defense, it's almost impenetrable with that, that guard. He's got that Mike Tyson peekaboo style guard. It just, you can't penetrate it. You can't hit him.
He keeps his hands up.
Yeah, keeps his hands up. The head movement. I think he's just going to be way too much. He's extremely, extremely aggressive, man. And I don't think Valenzuela's ready for that type of aggression, although Valenzuela's a really good boxer and he can hit, but Isaac Cruz is too much. And I think Cruz is going to beat him around the 9th round.
I think Rayo, being the taller fighter with the longer reach, gives him some advantages, but he throws really good combinations, Mark, and he likes to throw punches in exchange with his opponent. He punches with his opponent, and there's always openings, right, available to you when you do that. I think moving up might help him because he'll carry the weight pretty well, being a very tall guy. I don't know if he's ever struggled making 135, but not having to cut 5 pounds, that might help him feel fresher coming into the fight. I think the X factor here is Robert Garcia. He has Robert Garcia in his corner. As for Pitbull, Mark, he comes forward a lot. That's his game. You know what he's going to do. He's going to come forward on you. And I think his biggest weakness, though, is that he throws wide punches. There's going to be an opportunity for him to sneak some in. I don't know. I think there's a chance for Rayo here. Rayo is plus 330. I might put a little bit on Rayo for this fight. In the main event, we have Madrimov versus Crawford. Crawford 40-0. Madrimov is 10-0-1. Is Madrimov a cherry pick? Yes or no?
You know what, David? I actually like Madrimov on this one, man. I don't think he's a cherry pick at all. Look, I knew it. I knew it. So let's just talk first about why this guy is not. And yeah, I do like underdogs. Listen, he's got a big amateur career. He's got over 300 amateur fights. Madrimov is a Joel Diaz student. He was part of that team that beat Canelo, him, Bivol, and Joel Diaz. He sparred with Bivol, got him ready for Canelo. I think that team works well together. I think they're going to put together a great plan. He doesn't get hit often, and he can box. And I think he's going to give Crawford a run for his money. And I'm picking him to win, man. I'm going with the underdog on this one, surprisingly so.
Yeah, it's a big surprise there, man. Going for the underdog.
But listen, I can't say enough about Joel Diaz. Joel Diaz is one of the best trainers in the world. He really is. He's a brilliant boxing mind and one of the best motivators in the game. If things get tough and Crawford is having his way, believe me, Joel Diaz can bring it out of you. He's one of the best motivators in the game. You'll hear it. You'll hear him in the corner this Saturday. You're in for a treat when you hear this guy.
Madrimov has over 300 amateur fights. Yeah, that doesn't always translate to professional success, but this man has seen many different styles over his boxing career. He has more experience than those 11 fights lead on. He's very athletic. He can also switch hit. He's got pretty decent power too, and he's got a killer instinct. Once he sees you buzzed, he goes for the kill. But I think the problem that Madrimov is going to have with Bud Crawford is that he tends to lunge at times. He'll lean in or jump in, throwing a leaping left hook or an overhand right. The lunging in is going to be important because Crawford, I was looking at some of his footage, and he pivots a lot on his opponents. When they come in on him, he pivots and ends up on the side, and they leaves him open. Sometimes there's openings there. Sometimes he just evades the shots. If he can time Madrimov coming in with one of those leaping, lunging shots, he might be able to put him down. Crawford's on an 11-fight KO streak. He has way more professional experience. Another thing that I think is an advantage for Crawford, Mark, is his ability to make adjustments in the fight. Crawford can fight you one way, and if it's not going his way, he knows how to flip it on you and make an adjustment in order to start taking over the fight. If Madrimov is forced to change his fight Will he be able to make those adjustments? I'm going to go with Crawford. I bet against the man twice already. I thought he was going to lose against Victor Postal. I thought Errol Spence was going to beat him. I'm not betting against him this time. I think Crawford brings his strength up to 154 pounds, and he times Madrimov coming in and changes the fight from there. Madrimov will have his moments, though. I think this is a tougher fight than people realize.
Yeah, for sure. I honestly, hopefully he wins. I'm choosing him to win. I think Joel Diaz got what it takes to decipher Crawford's style and give him his first loss.
Well, that's it for this video, Mark. Lots of good boxing coming up this weekend. To all our viewers, let us know in the comments which fight are you looking forward to the most. Whose predictions do you agree with, me or Mark's? Hit us up in the comments and let us know about that. As always, like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace.